If you're an expat, don't get mad at me. Soy inmigrante. All right. Hey there, it's Scotty Bones. Good evening, and thank you for coming to watch this video. I'm recording in somewhat less than ideal conditions in a room in a house of a friend that I'm staying at. The street is super loud, and at any minute, some pack of dogs or neighbors or bread vendor or anything could pop off, and you'll hear it in the background. So first, I apologize for that. So the title of this video is My Journey as an Embedded Immigrant. I'm becoming an embedded immigrant in Mexico at the age of 59. I came up with this term to focus my intentions as I adjust to living full-time in Mexico. I'm borrowing the meaning of the term embedded from journalism when a reporter immerses themselves in the daily life and experiences of their subject. It's about immersion, not just visiting or observing. What embedded means to me. Becoming embedded implies integration, not just popping in for a story. For me, it's about engaging in the daily routines of the town where I live right now, to experience and understand something about the peoples in whose town I live. Becoming an embedded immigrant is more about becoming a storyteller, living the story, and less as an outsider looking in. Expat versus immigrant, the basics. By now, most of you watching know the terms expat and immigrant. It seems that expat is the term most Americans, Canadians, and British people use to describe themselves. It describes and emphasizes the act of leaving one's homeland without implying settlement or integration elsewhere. To immigrate describes the specific act of moving to another country with the intent to stay long-term or permanently. Same action, different perspectives. My YouTube autofill experiment. The term expat is often associated with retiree lifestyles and digital nomads. You may hear of the expat communities in San Miguel de Allende or Lake Chapala. If you're attuned to the sentiments of locals in some places, such as Mexico City, you might hear about los pinche expat gentrificadores in neighborhoods like Roma, Condesa, Polanco, and increasingly Narvarte, and a few others. I decided to search the terms immigrant and expat on YouTube. I wanted to see how YouTube would autofill the phrases immigrate to ... and expat in ... The first search autofilled with Canada, Uruguay, New Zealand, Germany, and Dubai, suggesting an association of wealthy, developed countries with the verb to immigrate. The search for expat in ... came up with Mexico, Cambodia, Albania, Portugal, and Thailand, suggesting a lower-cost lifestyle choice in warmer, more budget-friendly destinations. It suggests choosing a destination for quality of life rather than for a specific purpose. The expat stereotype in Mexico. I don't want to generalize too much, but for me, the term expat conjures up an image of people from Western countries, the US, Canada, Britain, or parts of Europe, who live in Mexico but don't speak much Spanish, who spend a lot of time in the company of other expats, who live in expat-friendly areas, draw their income from pensions, savings, or remote work, rely on 180-day tourist visas, etc. I wonder if this leads to an interaction with Mexico and Mexicans that is stylized and performative. I wouldn't say that it's not an authentic experience, but sometimes the roles we play for each other solidify according to our abilities, our expectations, our perceived and real status within the social context that we are in. As foreigners with money, however humble we may perceive ourselves to be, there are rules, spoken and unspoken, for engaging with us by the local populations in Mexico. They aren't universal, not every rule at every place at all times. They aren't official, but they exist, and that influences the experience you believe yourself to be having. Why I'm choosing the term embedded immigrant for myself. I've decided to use the term embedded immigrant for myself. Embedded suggests a deeper level of commitment to my host country. I want to become part of the social, cultural, and economic fabric of Mexico. I want to adapt to the conditions in Mexico. To me, this distinction, thinking of myself as an immigrant rather than an expat, helps me create a mindset that reflects a long-term commitment to belonging. It helps me align my wishes and desires with my actions. My embedded immigrant plan. To this end of becoming an embedded immigrant, here is how I intend to activate my embedded immigrant plan. Language. I will prioritize mastering the local language fluently, including slang and nuances, to engage fully in daily life, work, and social circles. I speak decent Spanish already. I got a Spanish language and history degree nearly 40 years ago, and I've maintained a basic level of ability. Now it's improving rapidly again, and I'm starting to build my vocabulary beyond the basics. Social activities. I attend cultural events and seek opportunities to engage with people. That said, I am somewhat solitary by nature, so I don't overly try to engage with people all the time. Housing. I'm currently moving through the steps in the legal process to get permission to buy a house in an old neighborhood. I plan to fix it up and live in part of it and rent out the other part for either housing or retail space. Work. I plan to engage in local business, most likely specialty coffee, as well as rent part of the house and make videos about my activities for YouTube. Cultural engagement. If you're hanging out with locals away from expats, it's inevitable that you begin to absorb local ways and the timing of daily activities. For example, I have historically disliked conchas, one of the typical bread products here in Mexico, but now I've started thinking about them in the afternoons at snack time. I can't imagine another day without a coffee and a concha to dip in it at 3 or 4 in the afternoon. It's also enjoyable to learn about the local food customs, history, celebrations, and traditions. Being a YouTuber gives me a good reason to get right in there and start taking pictures and videos and asking questions. Legal participation. My wife and I have temporary residency cards in Mexico. That process required a 5-hour drive to the Mexican consulate in Portland, Oregon. We're on our way to the Consulate of Mexico in Portland, Oregon to apply for temporary residency. We've got all our paperwork. Took a bit of effort to get the appointment today on January 5th, 2024. Then we had to take a 1,800-mile round trip to Ensenada to complete the famous canque process to get our cards. Just crossed the border, got our FMMs stamped with canque. Tacos. Tacos. Canque means change and signifies that you are changing your status to resident when you go to the Instituto Nacional de Migración, the INM office in Mexico. Incidentally, it was on that trip that our dog had a full-blown anxiety attack at 2 a.m. in our hotel room in Ensenada. This led us to rethink our plans to take her to Mexico with us. I'll probably tell that story in another video if any of you are interested. As part of the property buying process I'm in now, I had to get a tax ID with SAT. That's the Secretaría de Administración Tributaria. It's the tax office in Mexico. I had to fill out forms, learn how to send and receive digital documents via WhatsApp, how to print them, sign them, scan them, and send them from a print shop sometimes. I had to take 2 trips by bus to Puebla and wait in many lines and answer many of the same exact questions from several people during this 2 days that I spent getting my tax ID number, which is called the RFC, Registro Federal de Contribuyente, the Federal Registry of Contributors. That's you. You're contributing tax money to the government. I also had to apply for permission to buy property as a foreigner from a different government agency, the Secretaría de Relaciones Exteriores, the Secretary of Exterior Relations, SRE. All of these things require multiple steps, reading and deciphering legal language in Spanish, and trying to make sense of contradictory instructions, such as this. The SRE website says that the entire application process can now be done online. They give you the email articulo27@sre.gov.mx and tell you to send your application and required documents. They all have to be in PDF format, though they don't tell you that unless you accidentally send one in another format, say a JPEG photo of a receipt, for example. The very next instruction on the website is that you have to send an original and 2 copies of each document, but there is no address or further information. Do you believe one, the other, or both? It turns out that this particular process is all online now. I'm assuming, because they sent me an email saying that they had my info and that they would send me an acknowledgement of receipt and a folio number. Sounds fancy. I'll probably make a video about it for those of you thinking of buying a property in Mexico. Mindset. I have to be proactive and future-oriented, aiming at permanence and belonging. I'm building a life that's intertwined with Mexico, and that involves effort and adaptation. It is imperative that you adapt your mindset to life in Mexico rather than try to adapt Mexico to whatever mindset you bring here. Be ready for just about anything, because anything can happen. Closing. Living the story. Becoming an embedded immigrant means adapting to the realities around me. It means observing and adapting. It's messy. It means figuring out contradictory rules. It means jumping through legal hoops. But it's worth it in the end, I think. I hope. I hope this video is useful to you, and I hope to see you again.